In terms of how do you teach these young athletes to handle the mental side of performance and develop that mental toughness?
I think it's a matter of what you do in preparation, right? Everybody wants to win. Not everybody is willing to put the time, effort, and energy in to do what is necessary to win. Everybody wants to jump right to the end, but when we talk about overnight, they're an overnight success. No, they're not. Man, they have been literally grinding it day in and day out for years, and it just happens then worked out for them. But they just didn't pop up like a Cabbage Patch Kid. I mean, they've been working at it a long time. And I think that's, talking about student athletes, it's what you do off the field. It's what you do in preparation. It's what you do when people aren't looking and aren't watching. And how are you preparing yourself and doing what is necessary for you to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Brayne Cast. With me, as always, is my co-host Taha. We have a special guest, Jeff Searcy. This episode is brought to you by Brayne AI. We help business utilize AI to automate their workflows, sales funnels, and lead conversion.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Shane. Today, our guest with us is Jeff, who is the Director of Athletics at John Ferry Christian Academy. He's also a Marine Corps veteran, longtime baseball coach, former public school government and economics teacher, and nonprofit leader as well. He brings a sharp perspective on education, leadership, and critical thinking, as well as technology. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Wow, Todd, thanks. Man, I appreciate, you made me sound really good, man. Thanks for the intro. Send me that text. I'll use that. That was nice. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll get you that clip.
I'll use that. I like it. I like it a lot. No, it's great to be on, guys. It's certainly an honor, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I think today's going to be a good one. We'll talk baseball for sure, but also what we want to talk about is, AI skepticism, how messages are controlled, misinformation, then critical thinking and the loss of that skill, especially in the education crisis in terms of literacy, the standards and the outcomes. We'll get into alternative education as well, parents' expectations, and then your leadership across your different career chapters, your coaching mindset, athletics, baseball, and then we can talk about, preparing students for this new AI era and any closing advice that you might have for parents and young people. How does that sound?
Oh, man, it sounds great. Sounds like fun.
Awesome. Well, so Jeff, when we first spoke, you said that, AI has a place, but you're also very cautious about where it's heading. What worries you most about AI right now?
Yeah, and I think the development of AI, and certainly if you hear, you hear both sides of the conversation. You got folks who love it, and you got folks who are absolutely scared to death of it. And then you've got people that are not quite sure what side they're supposed to be on, especially when they watch something and they think it's real, and it turns out to be AI. They go, "Wow, that's pretty awesome." And then you wondering how this thing is going to be able to be controlled. And from the world of education, what we're seeing, and you guys have seen it too, and I think that we become so dependent on this thing you and I talked about that as opposed to us trying to figure out how to do something, we immediately go to ChatGPT or we go online and we find it. And now our source of understanding is all coming from online as opposed to us really kind of figuring it out. I grew up in the 80s. I mean, when we left during at the day, we wouldn't come back until it's dark, and that's just kind of the way that it worked out. And we figured stuff out, and trial and error was the school. We went to the school of hard knocks, and now it seems that knowledge and information, and we'll talk about information and controlling that message. And he who controls the message controls everything, And we're looking at kids who now, especially, they don't know life without this thing. They don't know life without technology, and their faces are on a screen 24/7, and they're inundated with information, which is great. Unfortunately, they really don't have a foundational set of understanding to which they can bounce this information that they're getting off all day long. They don't know what is real. They don't know what is fake. When we talk to kids and ask them, hey, where do you get your news from? Because I know you're not watching network news and you're not reading the newspaper, right? They're getting it online. And then I say, well, okay, how much of that information do you think is actually real? And I will get answers anywhere from 60 to 80% is not true. Then I go, well, if you're getting your facts, right, and your information from a source that 80%, some of you, even 60% is not true, how do you figure out what's true or not? And that is the concern. We're talking about education, is that you've controlled the message, you control everything, you control the content, you control everything, and we're literally seeing generations leaving our education system less intelligent, I think, than when they came in, because what they're finding is they're so reliant on a screen to give them an answer. When they're asked to actually figure something out on their own, they can't do it. And I think that's where unfortunately, that's where we're headed, and we're using the resources great. I just think we need to provide a better foundational set of understanding to generations of students before we just continues to inundate them with information.
I agree with that 100%. I also actually kind of think it's always been this way. It's just faster now. Previously, people controlled which curriculum we were supposed to learn, which history we were supposed to know about, and like who even knows if the history we were taught is actually true, because history is told by the victors of the war, right?
Correct.
And yeah, so it's hard even if you go back. I'm an 80s kid too. It's hard if you go, like, when I look back at my childhood now, I think most of the stuff I was taught in school is absolutely useless and or false.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of truth to that. But, one thing that we did learn was how to survive on our own, right? I mean, it was
Absolutely.
more of, and that's it. And so it's that understanding. Knowledge is only as good as its ability to be used. We talk about databases and everything else. It's the greatest database on the planet. Well, your database is only good as the information inside. And knowledge, I used to, when I talk about leadership, I do that. Knowledge is like the sharpest axe in the world, right? It's useless until somebody swings it. Well,
Yep.
And if you use it right, that axe can be very, very effective, right? Just like why a surgeon, why they use a scalpel. They don't use dull scalpels. They use super sharp scalpels. Now, scalpels can be used to heal, but also scalpels can be used to kill. So it's those things that, knowledge is great. Being able to use it effectively is also important. And unfortunately, I think we're getting a whole lot of knowledge, but not really how to use it or how to figure it out.
I think, Jeff, that's what makes our generation probably the most innovative and knowledgeable, because we started before the internet. We adapted to the internet, then we adapted to cell phones, then we adapted to AI. The people from our generation who actually work with the internet, work with the AI, we are actually ahead of this next generation in the way that we saw life before it, and now we've adapted to it. Whereas these next generations, they didn't really have to adapt too much to anything, right? It's just there.
Yeah.
The internet's just there. So,
And you're not too old to the point where, like the boomer generations, that they can't even adapt.
yeah, they just vote
right.
liberal.
Yeah, it's no. Well, you're exactly right, Shane. I mean, we've seen the whole thing. We've watched, experienced from the phone on the wall with the 30-foot cord, and you had to spend the extra money so you could go to the other side of the house. To now, we can literally have a simulcast class with somebody on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone. I mean, seeing that in our lifetime, which is absolutely phenomenal, which is also a cause for some concern, because it is so fast. How are we going to be able to keep up with it and and not be on the wrong side of the equation. I think that's, we're looking at that, especially, and when I talk government and economics, I didn't teach it from a textbook standpoint. I taught it from a business standpoint because I understand it in the world of nonprofit and for-profit, and that everything is about choices and incentives, and everything has a cost, and most of the things that we do has a non-monetary cost. And so when we're thinking about all those things, and when we're teaching these kids, hey, listen, it's 100% self-interest on my part, because if I do a good job, hopefully when they're making decisions that will impact me as I get older, I'm hoping that we instill some pretty good understanding on their part. So when they're actually making decisions, it benefits our generation. Hey, I mean, I want to make sure that we're taking care of at least as much as we can, right? So
I personally wouldn't rely on that generation to take care of me. I'm going to try to make sure I'm rich.
Amen. That's what I'm working on that one. Working on that one too. But again, it's that, when you look at that, I got two boys, 25 and 22. They're knee deep in this and trying to figure out things and trying to stay ahead and trying to see where it goes. And now looking at a job market it's a little bit uncertain. Just future things are happening so fast. We're getting to the point now. College. Yeah, no kidding. And I've told them, I said, hey, man, it's where it's headed. Like it or not, it is where we're headed. So,
yeah.
Yep.
And us being 80s kids, too, the other thing that we have is we grew up in the era of the Terminator movies. So we've seen where this goes. And so I can picture Sarah Connor right now watching us build these data centers and saying, what the hell are you guys doing? I tried to tell you.
That's right. Or what is it? Space Odyssey? Was it Dave? What are you doing, Dave? Right. I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, with the Terminator, you're exactly right. And so we have a frame of reference, and I guess it's a perspective that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, so it's a pretty famous movie, and it's kind of all coming to fruition. And whether it's the existing AI or the AI from the movie, but it's all kind of happening the way the movies projected that it was going to happen. You know what I mean? So that's what makes it scary.
You're absolutely right. And seeing it all of a sudden, Orwell. Wow, George, you were actually way ahead of yourself, and all these things you're going, here it comes, and we're waving red flags, and people just flying right by us. It's, you start to see it happen, and maybe that understanding is also seeing what's coming. Sometimes you wish you didn't.
Yeah, you have George Orwell's 1984. You have that movie Idiocracy as well. That comes to mind.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, were you able to sit through the whole thing? Taha, were you able to watch the whole thing without having an anxiety attack?
No,
I couldn't either. Oh man. Oh yeah. I mean, but we're seeing that happen though, guys. And we're seeing it. I guess that's, you guys being on the front line and me being kind of the novice, just trying to get my head wrapped around it, seeing where potentially it can go, and also being that Shane, this is probably where you and I are on a very similar, controlling the message and controlling content. And then all of a sudden now, if that's what the learning is happening and that's where we're getting our answers from, and kids are not trying to figure it out on their own, they're getting it from this. And then all of a sudden, if the content is controlled, now you control generation after generation after generation. I mean, we've seen that. If you control the past, you also control the future.
Yep.
Right. And that's the scary part. And you guys are on the tip end of this. And so that's why cool. I love hanging out and hearing from you, but also maybe to talk some of us off the edge of the cliff, right? As we're seeing this thing happen and saying, hey, I'm hoping that light at the end of the tunnel is not a Greyhound bus coming back at me. I'm hoping that it's actually, there is great at the end of this big tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thankfully too, well, I don't know if it's thankfully, but most of the people in power and in charge of these companies are around our age. So like a lot of them are seeing what's happening. It's just a matter of who's going to get the best system and who's going to have it working. But like you said, whoever controls the AI is going to control the information that the world gets. And it makes me think of another movie where I forget the name of it, but the AI was actually um, projecting things like predicting the future. And not
Yeah.
only would it predict it, but it would create it. It would say, okay, you're going to have a mass sickness, and then the humans would gather all the sick people together and create the mass sickness by putting them all together.
Self
And
self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a new Chris Pratt movie, and you got to. I now think of it where they've got actually it's a judge. There's a judge or there's a court, and it's an AI court, and literally you've got 90 minutes or something to prove your innocence or guilt, and if you don't prove it, then off with your head. So I don't know,
yeah.
man. I don't know if that's where it's going, but it's a new movie. I watched it. I can't remember the name of it, but
I do see a
pretty
future
interesting.
where an AI defense lawyer argues against an AI prosecutor in front of an AI judge, and the decision's made within 1 minute, kind of thing.
I think there is some pilot project, I forget which country and where they're trying to introduce an AI judge.
Wow. I saw some numbers where there is an uptick in the number of AI generated lawsuits in
Oh
amongst the
yeah.
legal system. Yeah.
Well, the whole law system, like, there's always going to be the elite lawyers that are needed, but like the average lawyer can be replaced by AI right now, easily.
Yeah, and that's the part where the human side of things. Anyway, that's the the discussion, I guess. Especially as an old Marine and watching what's happening around the world and really following what's happening. Between Russia and China and all of us, the geopolitical landscape, and that's pretty volatile at best. And now, because we're going to the world of drones and everything else, and really more of electronic battlefield, even though you still got boots on the ground. AI being used and Anthropic and all those, and everybody's kind of going a little bit crazy because there's no empathy. There's no human, I guess, reluctance in the world of AI, and so let's just go.
I think it's more about the race. Like, it's a race. So the U.S.
Yeah,
versus China versus Russia. Nobody can take their foot off the throttle, otherwise the other country wins. And I
yeah,
also see a future where the biggest currency is going to be energy, because who's going
one
to
hundred
power
percent.
these data centers? It's not going to matter if you have $1 million. It's going to matter if you have a million solar panels.
Yeah. And that, I would tell you, right here in Georgia, there's a huge fight going on with those data centers being dropped in areas where eminent domain is being instituted, and people are losing land, and they're seeing a rise in electric costs and energy costs and all of this other things with these monster data centers. So that is going to require it, but that is not. People are not real happy about what's going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then when you look at
And
the direction that these companies are taking their products in as well, you might be familiar with the term enshittification,
Okay.
right? It's where, the iPhone will slowly phase out their older models so that they can then introduce the new one and make everybody buy that and just get them annoyed with their current models that are just slowing up. Or Netflix, where they keep increasing subscription costs and
Yep.
decreasing the amount of shows and, total library of what they offer. And so what these companies are doing with their AI models is they're slowly rate limiting them. So they get you hooked on the supply, and then they limit the amount that you can use it, right? But you need it, and now you're paying more for the tokens. And
Yep.
over time, they've said this openly, where they want to make knowledge into a luxury. So it's going to be behind a paywall. So just
Yeah.
imagine that, where knowledge is being turned into a weapon in that way. Where if you're paying for the highest subscription, or highest, if you're paying the highest bidder gets the best information, which means ultimately you win at business or whatever your agenda is.
Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah.
government's and guess what, guys? We know the government's going to be controlling that, and so now if they're controlling that, it's that strategic capitalism. I mean, that's really what's when that is driving it. We're looking at so many of these. We're talking. I know the GSA. You guys, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the GSA here in the United States. Is how the government acquires contracts to provide services, and so now it is going. They're much larger, so now it's doing a more broad application that's going to really kind of drown out, I think, the individual business that the GSA schedule was created for. Now these larger companies are the only ones that can actually get on it. And then really, so you're looking at that control of information, back to what you said. Now, changed what we were talking about, man. Control the message, control everything. And now our access to information, it won't be the entrepreneur and the individual capitalist anymore. It'll be the big giant companies that's controlling everything and our access to it.
Yeah, and it's also like the Nestle baby formula model, right? When they brought this baby formula into Africa just to get the mothers hooked on it, and then pitching it that it's the healthier version, this and that, and then they got them hooked on it, and ultimately it was. This is the trial phase that we're going through right now, where it's being offered for free for that reason.
Yeah. Well, how do you guys do it? And I mean, think about the Xbox, right? I mean, you can't play it. You can't play an Xbox One or Xbox, the original Xbox. You can't play that on the new one, but you can play the new one. And all those things, man. You had to get a brand new Xbox. So you got some folks with like 5 Xbox systems in their house because they can't play the games on any of them, right?
Yeah.
So how are we doing this? How are you guys? What is your approach? I mean, what you guys have said, completely get it and understand. And I think that's the fear of where many of us have as it relates to AI. And I 100% agree, man. There's a race who to master this thing and who's going to have the bigger thing. But we also know, man, there's so many things happening underneath the surface that we don't see. The clandestine aspect of information now, the access to it, and who's controlling this, and energy sources and resources and all of that stuff. We don't see half of that. We don't even see, I bet we don't see 99% of what's actually going on.
That's great.
Yep.
So how? I mean, what is the thought process from your end?
Well,
I guess.
Yeah. The number one thing to realize is that whenever something is free, what's the product? Well, you're the product, right?
Nothing's free, man. There's a cost.
Yeah.
Everything has a cost, right?
Yeah.
Econ 101.
Our object is to make sure we have enough clients by the time that they increase prices that rely on us, so that we can increase their prices with the increased prices. That's if you're stuck with 2 clients and you got to increase the price, you might be in big trouble. But if you got 25 to 50, then if you lose 5, it's no big deal. And the prices will increase across the board for other companies as well. So as long as we've been in this now pretty much since the beginning. We're veterans in the space, so to speak. Like we've been around like 20 months now, which is a long time in AI. So I think we're well positioned. Actually, we have social media everywhere. We have websites. We have clients. We have client reviews. We're well positioned for the next stage.
Also, what's changing with in the landscape is really the personal messaging and personal branding. So that's becoming more and more important because people are averse to just AI generated content and stuff popping up everywhere, products, this and that. So they want that personal touch, which is what something like this podcast brings to the table, right? Where humans behind the operations. So we want to have a human connection. That becomes even more important, and Shane talks about that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of fitness content online too to add my own personal, for my own personal branding that's tied to Brayne AI. As the CEO, I like to say hire somebody fit, because if you can't even be trusted to maintain your own body, how can you trust them with your business?
Right. Amen. Well, and I guess that's also where, as we're heading, we're seeing where a college degree used to be the end all be all. And now we've got kids graduating from college that don't know the difference between there and there. That one's a possessive and one is a place, and they don't quite understand which is which. And so now all of a sudden that piece of paper becomes less important, other than, hey, do you actually have the ability to do this job in which we're hiring you for? And so we're seeing that transition as well. And so it's
I'm
yeah,
I'm personally a member of an alternative school called the Real World, from
yep,
Andrew Tate, and that's where I actually have my own degrees from there, and I find that school to be far more valuable than college is in today's day and age, because they're actually teaching you to make money. They're teaching you about money, about crypto, about blockchain, about AI, and about business and sales, which are
Marketing.
yeah,
marketing. Yeah. So like in one school where you pay 100, well, if you're new, you pay $100 a month. I'm grandfathered in from the beginning, so I get it very cheap. But
yeah,
for $100 a month, you can get a more valuable education than you will for $100,000 a year.
yeah. No, there's a lot of truth to that, and again, it's a matter of being able to figure things out and being able to turn and make adjustments. And unfortunately, I think we've got too many that are they're going down one path and they don't understand how to make an adjustment.
Mhm.
And that's the difficulty. Then they go, well, I put all my emphasis in this direction. What do I do now? And
Yeah.
that is that part of, and one, when I had the chance, as you mentioned earlier, in the world of nonprofit, I was one of the original guys at the Wounded Warrior Project, and I had a chance to lead all the development and marketing and all the branding and all of that for WWP way back now. I was thinking 20 years ago, it's 20 plus years ago now. Good gracious, a whole other lifetime ago. But I had a chance to also I left the development side and then led up all of the employment and the empowerment portion of the programs. And the goal of, we talk about schooling, and people a lot of times don't see themselves as great students, right? But they know that you got to get training in some capacity. Otherwise, then you're not going to be able to do anything, and nobody's going to hire you. And unfortunately, we gather information and we get schooling and education, and it reaches a point, then all of a sudden we realize either we don't like it, or the job market is saturated, or I don't know what to do. So now I feel like I got to start all the way back over again. And ideally, I used to work with the guys and say, let's find somewhere here to where no matter what you're doing is that you will not have to go all the way back to the beginning, but let's go ahead and build a foundation of skills and understanding and knowledge that you can then go in various directions. But if you have to turn around, you turn around, you don't go all the way back to the start. You only go halfway back, kind of a lat move, and then go back up. And I wish that we were doing that more in the world of education, as opposed to just kind of throwing stuff out there, hoping hypothetically that it works.
Yeah, I think as far as education, if I could give any advice to anybody, the first place you should start is in sales. If you could do sales, then you can venture into almost any business. But the way nobody really teaches through sales in college, like from what I've seen, and I think that's
No,
a big mistake.
no, it
You
is,
gotta
and
learn rejection, learn to handle rejections, learn that,
oh,
hey, you gotta get on 50 calls before you're gonna make a good one, like
that's exactly right. So you got to talk to 100 people before one will listen to you, and then you got to get 5 people to listen to you before one will even make a sale. So the numbers themselves don't necessarily relate. But unfortunately, guys, what we run into, those of us in the 80s, we realize that. Right, because we sometimes, hey, I got my first job. I was selling air filters door to door. I mean, go figure that one. And so, you got to get rejected a whole lot. Well, we live in the world of instant gratification. Then all of a sudden, if the first one doesn't work out, then we kind of chalk it up and say, "Well, I'm not going to try anymore." And
yep.
that's just not life. That's not reality. You're not going to get that corner office in your first gig. I mean, you got to really put the time, effort, and energy. You got to get said no a lot before
And that
before you
that
get a
that
yes.
also, because we're into sports, Jeff, that comes back to one thing that I highly, highly disagree with, is these participation trophies where everybody's a winner and there are no losers in sports. Because for me, growing up, sports was the biggest differentiator, which taught me the difference between winning and losing. And the kids just aren't learning that now. Everybody's a winner, like that's just not reality in life when you get out of being a kid and then you go to being an adult. But I thought everybody was a winner. No, that's not how the real world works. There's a winner, there's a loser.
No kidding. Yeah. And we were talking baseball earlier. Well, I think everybody loves their favorite sport. And I've been on a baseball field now. My wife and I counted up 53 years in some capacity, either playing, coaching, or officiating. And I think baseball emulates life more than anything else because it is the ultimate game of failures. In baseball, you do something successful 3 out of 10 times, you'll go to the Hall of Fame if you do it for a career.
Hall of Fame. Yep.
In any other sport, in any other endeavor in life, if I complete as a quarterback 3 out of 10 passes, I'm not a quarterback long.
Nope.
If all of those things, and so, but it's the mental part. How do you handle rejection? How do you handle a strikeout? Knowing that you're going to get 3 at bats. What if you strike out the first 2? Do you carry that luggage to the third time at bat? Well, you're guaranteed to strike out again or not do so. It's the mental part, and that's mental strength. And guys, that's what we're losing, I think, in generations is just the mental toughness, the intellectual courage of us actually having a conversation when we knowingly disagree with each other, as opposed to just cancel off because we've been programmed to continuously give me more of what I want. Don't give me anything that I don't want or don't understand. And we've just lost that. And that's the part where we got to figure this thing out.
Yeah. And Jeff, we're talking about a convenience gain is a skill lost. So, these students are able to use AI as their first source for like basically every answer now. So what does this mean? Like you're saying, you're seeing in high schools seniors who can't even read. What does this reveal about the education system? And what skills are they at risk of losing now with all of this convenience at their fingertips?
Yeah, one, we've lost the ability to actually have a conversation. We've lost the ability to write coherently, right? And that we are creating. In other words, when we talk about if we pull something off of online, right? We go chat, hey, create this business plan for me, create this essay for me, and everything else. Then all of a sudden it just dumps it all in. We really haven't done any kind of thought around it. If you ask somebody, hey, summarize your own paper for me, and they can't do it because they didn't write it. And then when it goes back to your point about the literacy piece, I just finished recording a podcast about talking about this, is that we don't like to look, we're very quick at looking at the outcome and saying, look at that, how bad that is, how horrible that is, blah, blah, blah. But we don't actually look at what is the why, what is actually causing it. If literacy rates are decreasing, literacy rates are decreasing. So we're, as opposed to us actually teaching kids to read, let's lower the Lexile scores and the standards and the ability at this particular grade. You're supposed to be reading at this level. Oh, you're not? Well, let's lower the standards to meet where you are, as opposed to saying, oh no, let's bring you up to the standard where you need to be so you can actually be a productive member of the society. It just blows my mind that we just keep kicking the can down the road, and we don't actually acknowledge what is the core issue with creating this thing that we're screaming about and everybody's fussing about.
Yeah, lowering standards does not win.
With AI writing their papers, when Jeff and I were kids, we had to go to a public library and go through 15 encyclopedias to find information to write a friggin' paper. It would take us like 2 weeks. These kids are let's just do it with a prompt.
And then the one book, and Shane, remember the one book that you needed was checked out. And unfortunately, you go, how do I even get the book? I can't even get it. I don't even know who I asked the librarian, right, who checked that book out. Then you go find the guy because they didn't bring it back within a week. And now you don't have anything. Your resources are gone. You can't do any research on it.
Yeah.
I
used that excuse once too many times, and my dad ended up buying me a set of encyclopedia.
The card catalog. I couldn't find it, man. The card was gone. All right, go
Oh
ahead,
yeah,
bust on
with the
us, Taha.
card in the back.
You were about to do the hey. You guys sound like you went up. You walked to school barefoot, uphill both ways in the
Yeah,
snow, right?
both
I
ways
can.
uphill in the
Yeah,
snow.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You guys know it's a running joke now that, you just prompt AI, make me $1 million business, make no mistakes, enter.
That's hey. That's where. But the thing is, though, we are laughing about it, but there's a generation of kids who believe that that's actually reality.
Yeah.
And that's the part. How do we change that? Because unfortunately, we're going to get to the point that we're not a part of the mix anymore. As understanding of, we're bringing a level of understanding, at least a level of, I'll call it normalcy, right, to what we're doing. What happens then 30 years from now, where I'm 90, right? You reach a 90, and how do we just chalk it up or hope that it all works out? I mean, what do we do about that? What do you guys think about this as you're creating the tools that's going to literally shape the future? How are we going to do that?
My plan is to go off the grid completely as soon as I
Yeah,
have enough
that's a good
money.
plan.
Live in the
Hey,
mountains with my own animals, my own farms, and solar panels and Starlink.
I'm with you, buddy. Hey, listen, I'm 100%. I'm looking for land right now. But yeah, that's.
Check out the
But I
Philippines,
gotta fight
man.
the data centers.
The Philippines. It's very
Is that
undeveloped. Lots of land, very cheap. I have a full house here, which I pay $200 American per month for.
wow?
Yep.
Well, there we go.
I live.
There's your travel brochure for the Philippines. Relocate. The real estate market is hot in the Philippines, literally. Right.
Hey, I live a 5 minute walk from a beach that's so beautiful, and I walk there every morning to do my prayers and my meditation, and it's empty. I got the whole thing to myself.
Yeah,
Man,
I
that's the
think the
life.
return to nature is really important. Return to what's natural, our innate
Yep.
disposition from God, rather than being controlled by the technocracy.
Yeah,
Yep.
no kidding. And here's the other part too. There's a small number of people that can actually survive off the grid.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Me too.
I
Me too, man.
I can hunt. I can fish.
Hey, amen, brother.
I,
We're in good shape.
my first job was on a farm, so I know how to farm. I'm good.
And that's the subject of a whole other conversation with where our food sources and all that's going. Man, it's
Uh,
getting ugly.
I actually
Hmm.
just made a video about it, and it actually blew up online. About how like the chickens in North America are all like grown together in these little factories and just fed enough hormones to keep them alive long enough. And when I go get chicken here, they're running around on the street, picked up, chopped up right in front of me, take it home, and it tastes different. The eggs are different colors. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And now, okay, I got to see that. You got a video you catching a chicken, Shane. That's what I want to see. I want to see you like go old school Rocky Balboa, right, to catch the chicken. Right, I want to see, man. You catching the chicken. I don't want you
I'm
don't have
gonna
to
have
wring the
to.
neck or anything.
I'm
Just got
gonna
to
have
catch
to
it.
make one. I'm gonna make one. I'm gonna make one of those. That sounds like it would get a lot of views online for sure.
Hey, man, whatever it takes, right?
I'll have the Rocky music playing in the
There
background and
you
everything.
speed. You got to have Burgess Meredith doing the speed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Taha,
I
man,
gotta.
I'm dating myself now, man. That's really big time. That's Rocky. That's the original Rocky, man.
Yep.
That's old. That's a long time ago.
That's
Yes,
that's
sir.
something only us '80s guys know.
That's right. That's right. Best music, best decade of music ever, and everything in the
Oh yeah.
'80s was good.
And
I
we just
still
had
work
the
out
new Michael
to that
Jackson
old
movie.
school Rocky music. I
Yeah.
have that
Yeah,
on my gym playlist. I love it.
of course you got to have it on there, man. It pumps you up. You got to go to Philly and you got to climb the stairs and you got to go and you got to do all that, man. You got to do it every time.
I use those
Yeah.
movies to self-program. Like I cherry pick the good parts of these old movies, and I just watch certain parts of it. And then,
Yep.
like, whenever I'm not in the mood to train, because I train every single day, so whenever I'm not in the mood, I'll watch an old Rocky Four versus the Russian training scene or
Oh
something
yeah.
like that. I love
Hmm.
that stuff.
Oh no, you got
Yeah.
here's the one you got to go back to the original one where you got all of a sudden you hear the dong and you got Burgess Meredith saying,
Yeah.
"What are we waiting for?" And then all of a sudden there you're doing the one-handed push-ups and everything else.
Or Apollo saying there is no tomorrow.
That's right. You can't win. Right? You see what he does? There you got Mr. T. Oh, see, yeah, go back doing the Rocky movies, man. That'll get you going.
Yeah. I was saying we had the Michael Jackson movie just drop and going throwback to all his songs from the 70s and 80s, and now you have these kids that weren't even alive when he was
I
around, just
no
blasting his
kidding.
music.
Well, I will tell you, every once in a while, I'll have just my heart will just find its happy place when I see kids playing 80s music,
Yeah.
and I love it. And they're walking around. Okay, do you guys, Shane? I bet you seen the kids walking around with concert shirts on.
Oh
And
yeah.
I immediately say, okay, give me your favorite song. I used to do that in my classroom. They'd walk in with the Guns N' Roses or AC/DC. I'd say, good. Give me your top 5 AC/DC songs. Coach, I don't know. I said, no. You don't get to wear the shirt if you don't know the music because back in the day, right, we had to camp out at Turtles. You had Turtles records and tapes or whatever it is. You had to get those concert tickets because
Sunrise.
you couldn't get the shirt unless you actually went to the concert, and that was the badge of a trophy of accomplishment that you actually went to the concert and seen it. So, just
Yep.
always fun.
I remember Warp Tour. I used to love going to Warp Tour. It was
Man,
grunge music, like punk rock.
yeah, that now see those of us who think that everybody in Seattle and the grunge killed my hair bands and killed rock and roll because everybody was angry in the 90s, with Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and all the guys, they were all mad because you're coming from Seattle and the sun never shined and it always rained. The 80s was all poison and party music, right? It was all feel good music.
Well,
Yep.
as you two are reminiscing your childhood, what
Sorry.
if we steer the conversation towards a little bit about your leadership, right? In terms of
Yeah.
the military, business, nonprofit work, athletics. What would you say separates the good leaders from the poor leaders?
Wow. I think really one of the things that I strive when we're doing do a corporate training or really look at anything is to define what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And I think that, because some people say, well, I want to succeed. Okay, well, what is that? Define what success is. Because if you don't define it, then you have no idea whether you've reached it or not. You have no idea if you succeeded or not. Back to Shane's thing, talk about if you come in second place, that's just first loser. Hey, I define a win by I scored more points in this, and that's success. So when we talk about leadership, and really leadership is influence. I'm from the school of John Maxwell to a point that, leaders a lot of times aren't the big rah-rah guys. It's the people who influence people around them. And a lot of times we'll influence people that we don't have any idea we're influencing. And
Mm.
just that cognizant understanding that how I go about my day, how I treat other people, how I do my work, how I do my job, how I do those things are influencing people around me. And I think when the leaders understand that, they understand also that everybody is different. There's not a one size fits all. One of the things, matter of fact, Ty, you even mentioned about my baseballs in the back. There's 43 baseballs on there. 37 of those are teams that I coached, and every single baseball is a team of kids and families that are completely different than every other. They all brought something they poured into my life. I got to pour into their life, and I took from them what they wanted, and so we had the opportunity to influence each other. And I think from a leadership standpoint, one, if you ask 30 people to define leadership, you're probably going to get 30 different answers. I think to be a leader, you got to understand where you're going. right? And then also understand the impact that you make around you, and be aware of how you do things and how it's going to impact other people, and then own that. Because I think the world is screaming for leaders, but they're scared to death for leaders to come forward, because leaders don't conform. They step forward as opposed to everybody else stepping back, and they blaze trails. And I think that there's a war on leadership, right? There's a war right now on leadership, even though we all scream we want one, but we want one that conforms to everybody else. To me, that's not a leader. That's just another sheep, right?
Right.
And then and we're also looking at there's not a one size fits all. One thing that I do at the school that I now, like I said, career number 6, is I do leadership, but our students are creating, and I bring the leaders and the influencers within the athletics, because you and I both know, if you're a student athlete, you are placed at a pedestal, you are placed up front, whether you like it or not, because you're endowed by the ability to play a sport or to do something. People look at you different, and you influence people. For us not to understand that, we're missing it. We're missing the boat on that. And so literally I teach kids, and we do 9 different rules, and they go through, and it's not a blueprint of how to lead, right? It's more of, these are the realities that you're going to run into. You have to lead the way God has created you, because you're a piece. You're a purpose of only one purpose that distinctly done for you. And so you can't emulate somebody else. You can, but if they're not exactly like you, you can't use a very similar leadership style. You can use some things, but you can't just completely imitate somebody. It's like somebody trying to be a coach. You're trying to do exactly what the coach did before. Well, there's a reason why you're coaching and he's not, right? They fired him. They hired you. You probably need to be you. So when you ask, what makes a good leader, but one, to understand what you bring to the table. Understand that you don't have all the answers. Understand that there's always a piece to the puzzle missing. Understand that you're going to influence and own how you influence the people around you. And then actually do your own research and do your own homework, and own your understanding, own your perspective, and own where you sit in the world, because a borrowed opinion, as soon as it's challenged, man, you can't defend it, because why do you think that way, coach? Well, because they think that way. Well, why do they think that way? I don't know. Well, then what do you know? Why am I listening to you anyway? And so if you can't actually substantiate your own belief system and what you hold to be true, nobody's going to listen to you, man. And that's so leader, that would be it. That's the advice, a good leader and bad leader. I mean, you're going to influence somebody one way or the other.
You also, in my opinion, I think you got to be very good at what you do, whatever you're
100%.
leading at.
100%. And again, always learning. I mean, coaching, literally, I retired in 2022 from coaching baseball, 25 years, and I'm actually going to be coaching next year. I just can't get it out. I just can't get enough of it, right? And as soon as if you think you know it all, you're in trouble. It's just like learning. You learn something, and you got to be coachable. And that's that part too. Even leaders have to be coachable.
Right. That was a great answer. What do you think in terms of how do you teach these young athletes to handle the mental side of performance and develop that mental toughness?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of what you do in preparation, right? Everybody wants to win, right? But not everybody is willing to put the time, effort, and energy in to do what is necessary to win. Everybody wants to jump right to the end. But when we talk about overnight, they're an overnight success. No, they're not. Man, they have been literally grinding it day in and day out for years, and it just happens. It just then worked out for them, but that they just didn't pop up like a Cabbage Patch Kid. I mean, they've been working at it a long time. And I think talk about student athletes. It's what you do off the field. It's what you do in preparation. It's what you do when people aren't looking and aren't watching. And how are you preparing yourself and doing what is necessary for you to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. And also understanding that you're not going to win every time. Nobody goes undefeated. And you got to own that, and you got to live that, and get over it if you don't. But it doesn't mean that you quit. because there's a difference. And I hate losing, and this is my own philosophy. I hate losing more than I like winning. And there's a distinct difference, big time difference, because that's that part. But I also understand that I won't win every time. So if at the end of the day, when I lose, if they beat me at my best, I've got to tip my hat to them. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I stop trying. That doesn't mean I work any less. I still work harder, but I also understand there's always somebody bigger, stronger, faster than me. I can't help that. I can only control what I control. That's all that I can do. And I think that is the more that we let kids know, hey, listen, you only bring two things 100% that you can control in anything, your attitude and effort. That dictates how you are going to succeed or fail. And whether you succeed or fail, you're absolutely right. It's 100% up to you. So you make that choice up front and then do what is necessary to accomplish what you want. And also understanding that means you may not win every time. Okay. I hate that, but that doesn't mean I don't show up the next time.
Right. Yeah, the message that I'm getting is basically, to boil it down in one sentence, is be yourself, never give up, be coachable and open to always learning.
Yeah. If more of that and accepting that, and also the fact that, hey, listen, it is truly up to you. Now, you're going to need a whole lot of people to get to wherever you want to go. Nobody is 100% self-reliant. Nobody is. But what you bring to the table either attracts people or repels people. And so the more that you bring your attitude and effort, man, you work hard at stuff, good things are going to happen. You hit a baseball hard, great things happen, right? That's it. So you work hard. If you work hard at everything that you do, you have a good attitude, when you go everything, it's amazing how good things happen.
Yeah. So Jeff, to finish off the episode, I want to ask you, what are families really looking for when they choose private schools or alternative education, and what should parents and schools do to prepare kids for this AI-driven world without letting them lose the ability to think?
Yeah, I think understanding where you're going. Well, we'll go right back to the very first thing, because you and I talked about this last week, and we're talking about the show, and I think really identifying what it is that you want to get out of an education, as opposed to just sending off and hoping what comes back is going to be satisfactory. I think really being intentional about getting out what you want to get out of it, and understanding the environment that you want to be in, and then be realistic about the environment in which your student is going. Because a lot of times we complain about where they're going, but okay, well then if you're allowing them to go and you're still complaining about it, then maybe you need to do something different. And it's not that it's right or wrong. I mean, public education could be great for people, and oftentimes it is just fine. Private education may be good for other people. Homeschooling, alternative education may be great. Not going to college is actually okay too, right? So it's a matter of really, what is it that I want to get? What kind of environment do I want my student to be a part of? Ultimately, what do I want to get out of that? What, outside of just the true academic nuts and bolts, bells and whistles, X and O's of it, what are they actually getting out of it? Are they bringing life skills, or is it just 2 + 2? And then looking at that and being more intentional at home about being a part of the education, and as opposed to truly just putting it in the hands of somebody else. Be active members and actively involved in the education of your kids, because ultimately you're training them for them to leave your house. I mean, you want them to be successful, and you want them to learn and be able to handle rejection, right, Shane? Right? You got to learn how to handle those things, man. That's the
beauty of sports.
Yeah.
Sports
let them
teaches
play
you how to lose more than it teaches you anything else. Yeah.
Let them lose. Let them lose. Let them fail. And I don't mean fail and just bad, but let them fail. And then let them pick themselves up and then say, okay, what happened? Why did you fail? Why didn't you do? Oh, I can't believe I failed that test. What did you study? No. Okay, then you can't believe that you failed the test. You didn't do any preparation to it. And so I think that really families just need to figure out what they want and what they're willing, and if what they are what's available to them doesn't meet whatever expectation they have, then what are you willing to do to ensure that the environment that you're going to put your kid in is where you want it? I mean, what are you willing to give up? Because again, goes back to Econ 101, everything has a cost. What are you willing to give up to ensure that your child, your children, have the education that you want them to have? I think that is
I
the
think you got to
biggest.
give it to them yourself. If like the Grant Cardones of the world, these guys aren't sending their kids to school. They're teaching them
Yep.
themselves what they feel is important in life, and
Yeah.
that's something I think a lot of people should actually consider, especially in Canada, the direction of the public school system with the LGBTQ being pushed and all. I won't
Yep.
get started into that here, but like there's a lot of things that are being pushed by this liberal government. I probably shouldn't get started into that either, but that are just it's not good. The kids are coming out, they're confused. Like they think that a boy can be a girl. I don't know if I should get into that either, but they identify as they. Like they is not a thing. You're born a boy or a girl, and you're not going to change my opinion on that. But like it doesn't matter if you're confused. You're a boy. You can be confused all you want. Like if my kid comes home and says, "I'm confused. I think I might be a they," I say, "Okay, we're leaving school and we're going to go camping for a while."
Amen.
And like it's just there's too much confusion in these schools on what they think is acceptable, and teaching them about sex and transvestites and all this other crap that should stay out. Like we never dealt with any of that. There was none of that. Yeah, I think there might have been one gay guy in my school, and I don't think he had a very easy time about it. But like in today's day and age, everybody's gay. Everybody's a them, they're fucking cat litter boxes and boys and girls bathrooms. Like, get out of here with this nonsense.
No kidding. Well, and I think that goes back to your question, because if we knowingly send kids into that environment, and again, it's not an indictment on a family if they send their kids to public school or whatever it is. I mean, hey, listen, I get it. I mean, some of the schools are better than others, and
system.
It is a system. You're exactly right. But to complain about it, but not be willing to do something about that. And I think that is really what it comes down to. Hey, listen, if you complain about it all day, but if you're not doing anything about it, then be quiet. It's the same people who complain about the politicians or who's been elected office, and I go, well, did you vote? No. My vote doesn't count. Well, then you know what? Your voice doesn't count either. Then don't say anything. If you're not actively doing something to make a change, then stop complaining about it. And I think that is really what
you're not teaching them at home as well, like what certain things that they should and shouldn't really necessarily pay attention to in school. Like me personally, I tell my kids, focus on what you think matters and what you don't think. Like my kids are all going into trades, girls, boys, doesn't matter. That's
smart.
what I think is important, because I think the trades are going to be the last thing that AI can kill.
That's exactly right. That's it. And you know what? Major on the majors. And before we go, it's interesting. It's kind of led this way. We talk about families, because one of the things that I talked about on my podcast was this attack on masculinity. And now you see all of these teen takeovers, right? The teen takeovers that are happening in cities. And now you got like Chicago mayor just this past weekend said he wants to hold the parents accountable. Well, okay. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but if you start to look at actual facts and figures, you will see that the overwhelming majority of many of those inner city families are one parent, dad is non-existent. And so when you've got families that are unstable, right? You have instability within a family, especially dad not being a part of the picture, somebody is going to raise your kids. And unfortunately, this thing is doing more of it than anything else. And we wonder why it's happening. You can't hold a parent accountable for the decisions of a young person. It's like me getting mad at my baseball team for not turning a double play. But then one of the kids raised their hand and go, Coach, you haven't taught me to catch a ground ball yet. I mean, so we look at it, I can't believe that's happening. I absolutely believe it's happening because you've removed the stability and structure that's actually going to give them a foundational thing of what is right and wrong, what is acceptable and what is not. And when you take that away and you let the world bring up your kids, this is exactly what's happening. So for me to look at it, it just breaks my heart because we got generations of kids growing up without dads. And we're wondering why they're ending up the way that they are, which is a whole other conversation, guys. But I wanted to.
And there's an attack on the dads to begin with words like toxic masculinity, and and you got Netflix where every dad on TV is a bumbling idiot while the mom's a lawyer, and it's just programming the family unit to not respect the father anymore, and that the mother's in control. That's if you want to actually watch some of these shows, that's what they want, and that's just not the way it was meant to be. It's not how we were raised. Like a man should have certain say in how, especially how his son is being raised, and should be teaching certain things like fishing and hunting and building. Like I came out of the construction business for 25 years, and I think a kid should know how to change a tire. I think a kid should know how to put up some framing, build a shed, use some power tools, like that. These are fundamental boy things that are being taken away and called toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah.
Strength
you got some. Yeah, and you got some people. And you got some people on the left saying that masculinity is fascist. It's like, okay, come on, man. But and it just, and I don't think that's the overwhelming majority. But unfortunately, the voice, the singular voices, and the media, it's pronounced louder and louder and louder. And yeah, I'm with you. It drives me nuts that the guy in the commercial is a moron. Every dad is dumb, and it's, come on, man. That's not real life. And unfortunately, we control the message, control everything, right?
Yep.
And that's it. What is acceptable? And we got generations growing up without dads who actually have an understanding of what they're called and created to be. To be that servant, to serve their family, but to lead their family, to provide for their family, to protect their family, all those things. That's what we were created to be and to do. And there's a war on that. And that's one of the reasons I'm fighting back like crazy on that, just because we got to get guys back in the mix, man. For us to think that this thing's going to work out without it is crazy. And so we got to get guys back in the mix.
You could look around the world at every single thing. Like the roads that you drive on, man, the house that you live in was built by a man. The electricity that runs to that house was done by a man. Like these are things, and all these men are getting older, and they've programmed children to all want to be doctors and lawyers and these other things, and now these trades are running out of men to do these jobs, and when that happens, the world is going to collapse literally without these. And my personal opinion is in the near future, tradesmen are going to be more valuable than doctors.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. So.
Well, we've gone well over time. You've been a great guest, Jeff.
Well, no, thank you. I'm sorry, man. I do the same thing, man. I'll chase rabbits, man. I'll get derailed. We could be on here for 6 hours and not talk about the same thing. So.
You might have to come on your podcast one day.
Come on, man. I'd love to have you. Listen, no, I'd love to have you guys here on Servant Warrior Podcast because I'd love to have you on because what we're talking about here is exactly some of the things to talk about on that, and just addressing things, man. It's seeing it as it is, not and understanding that it's not exactly the way we want. Okay, then what am I willing to do to try to influence it back where we need to be? Because we're crazy to think it's all going to work out on its own because we've already seen that that's not happening.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure. We had some amazing conversations. We talked about the future and all the scary things that are brewing. We also reminisced on the good old days, gave a lot of good advice for young people. And then, Jeff, one more time for the viewers, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can go to my website. You can go to jeffsearcy.net, JEFFSEARCY.net. You can access the podcast. You can access the radio show. I also do a radio show. Man, I'm old headbanger, a metalhead, and I've done a lot of writing and all of that. You can access everything there. That'll give you a pretty good idea where I stand on a number of things. But that is the best way to reach me there. You can go to the website jeffsearcy.net.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and till next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I look forward to having you guys on.
Great conversation. Great. This has been one of my favorite podcasts that we've done, actually.
Well, thank you. It's been the honor, guys. It's such a pleasure to meet you guys and hang out with you.
Likewise.